It is Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Time for the South Carolina NORML Cannabis conversation. Let me give this just a couple minutes here. I'll let a few people join in the room with us while I search for a document that I'm trying to find on another page here. There you go. And let's kind of see what the topic is tonight. Ouch. All right. Let me take a peek. We've got Quentin Campbell in the house. Finally here to catch a live show. Quentin, welcome. Thank you for joining us. The party has started. Joey is here. What's up in cannabis? What's up, cannabis lovers? What's up, Joey? Oh, he's saying sound. Are you guys not getting sound? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I better go check my sound here. What the heck? Oh, I've got to go to settings. Audio. Yep, it looks like I've got sound. Joey says he hears nothing. Quentin's got sound. Joey, check your mute button. That's what I do a lot. I hit my mute button. I don't see anybody else on the call yet, but I did just check in my settings, and it does show on the little audio thing that I'm getting sound. Oh. Let me see if I can send Joey a message here. All right. Well, let's hope we get Joey here connected in just a second here. I'll send him a message, see if he is able to see that. Double checks his sound. In the meantime, let me kind of kick things up here a little bit with our welcome, as we always do. We like to welcome everybody to the to our podcast. Whether you are, got another comment in here. All right, Joey's got sound. All right, now the party's ready to go. Let me go back to, where the heck was I? Oh, to our welcome, as we always do, where all of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis, and we do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. All right, let me clear that one off. Also, while we're on our welcome, I do like to remind people to follow us on Instagram at SCNormal. Also, VP's not with me tonight, but follow her on Instagram as well at Von Postema. Last but not least in our welcome, I do like to remind our viewers to please support our sponsors. Go to our website. Through the menu, find our sponsor page and support our sponsors. Also, if you're an organization in South Carolina, a business that would like to sponsor our podcasts or newsletter, we have a lot of sponsorship opportunities available. We're still sort of trying to develop them. We're not real good at that kind of stuff. But give us a shout through the contact page on our website as well, and we'll see what we can put together for you to get a little support for the changing of marijuana laws in South Carolina, and hopefully to help promote your business. All right. I laugh as I so often do as I click on the button that says intro and agenda. Some of our regulars may have noticed that VP is not here with me tonight. I just mentioned that. And she had the show, I thought, all planned out for us. I've been kind of trying to take advantage of either going along for the ride or on that second Wednesday when we talk about state and federal level policies, or legislation, I'm usually on the ball on that somewhat. Anyway, she is not here with us today, and that's why I was scrambling here to open up another document to see what she had planned for the talk. I thought this was it. she was planning on talking about how, Senate Bill 410041. I'm going to share that on screen here real quick. Actually, no, I'm not going to share it on screen real quick. I'll share it in a few minutes when we kind of get into it. But here in the agenda and intro portion, we are not going to talk about that immediately. That will be coming up, though, in our conversation shortly. We'll be talking about, and so if you want to pull it up somewhere on the side, Senate Bill 41. It's an asset forfeiture bill. So we are going to talk about that a little bit. And maybe when VP comes back, she'll even be able to clarify some stuff with us on that. Other thing I've got is my wife kind of knows that I support cannabis and that I like cannabis and things like that. So some of my Christmas present included a, let me see if I can hold this up for you here. Stoner Trivia, the original starter set, and then this like giant expansion pack. Stoner Trivia. So I kind of thought what I would do for the beginning of some of our podcast here as we're kicking off and in our intro. We're going to start with a question. I'm just going to throw the question out there. We're going to ask you all to maybe throw your answers down in the comments if you know the answer. And then we'll come back in a few minutes and we will kind of answer the question or give you the answer. I wouldn't have known it on this particular one. So that's where we're going to start with today. Is a trivia question. Which female singer was busted using a vape pen which she used to treat her pain and suffering due to the chemotherapy treatments? Was it Joan Jett, Melissa Etheridge, Sheryl Crow, or Christina Applegate? All right, one more time. Which female singer was busted using a vape pen which she used to treat her pain and suffering due to the chemotherapy treatments? Due to chemotherapy treatments. Worded a little funny. Again, the answers could possibly be, or your choices are, Joan Jett, Melissa Etheridge, Sheryl Crow, Christina Applegate. We'll come back to that in just a couple of moments, see if anybody has some thoughts on that one, if they have any answers. So, all right, and there is our question of the moment. Otherwise, as far as our agenda today, and I'll go back to that click button, wherever it was. Yeah, besides kind of a little bit of chit chat, probably some open conversation because I am not nearly as prepared on this one. VP did some real deep diving on this last Wednesday, actually, when we were driving up to the State House together. And I'm sure she's done a little bit more follow-up research on it since then. But let me bring this up on the screen just to show you. Excuse me, I'll put that. All right, let me bring this up here, see if I can make it. I can't even see it on that screen. All right. This is Senate Bill S0041. It's a general bill. It is sponsored by Campson. I want to say his first name's Joe, but I'm not sure of that offhand. I was originally looking at this, and of course, when I do these searches, you'll see it will, let's see if I can zoom this in a little for you. It will highlight the words that I'm looking for. As you see, marijuana in red. And so I just kind of started reading in that area. And I was reading this portion that says, in addition, I'll start at the top. A law enforcement agency may not seize cash of $500 or less, or property or other assets of a value less than $2,500. In addition, cash in any amount may not be seized solely incident on an arrest for possession of 28 grams or 1 ounce or less of marijuana. Simple. I thought that was actually new language. That is the language that is existing in the civil asset forfeiture bill as it stands. So I was all ready to say, hey, look, they're looking to try and remove at least simple possession from civil asset forfeiture. Well, actually, it's already not in there. What we do have to do is kind of scroll down a little bit further, and you'll see in some of this, certain sections have a line through it. they want to strike some of this language and then replace the language with underlined language. So you'll see here there's a paragraph B, which almost the entire paragraph is stricken, and then at the end there is a small insert to be inserted into there, stating that these provisions are governed by someplace else, stuff like that. So as we actually started getting into this, and I'm not sure exactly where we found it. Here we go. I think this is it. They want to remove some of the language that says at least a pound or more of marijuana, 1 pound or more of hashish, 1 pound or more of opium, more than 2 grains of heroin, more than 5 grains of morphine. All these little stipulations that they're finding is a violation, where they can seize your conveyances, trailers, aircraft, motorcycles, water-going vessels, blah, blah, blah. And they're replacing it with a language that basically, if you see right in here, substances containing tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, and marketed as food products, and any controlled substances analog are classified by the United States Drug Enforcement Administration. So they took all those other descriptions up above there and just tossed that into the as classified by the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, but added in substances containing tetrahydrocannabinol and marketed it as food products. Edibles. Let's just make it short and sweet. Edibles. So what they want to do in this particular legislation is include edibles into possession of cannabis edibles into a reason to seize your property. To seize all conveyances, including but not limited to trailers, aircraft, motor vehicles, blah, blah, blah. So this is for seizing your vehicle. If your vehicle happens to have some THC gummies in it. And the interesting part about this is where in the old stricken language it was talking about a pound or more of this, or a grain or that, or 4 grains of this, or blah, 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 blah. It doesn't give any type of weight, should I say, for the THC within the edible or the edibles, that kind of thing. It could be 1 gummy bear, 1 brownie, something like that. At least that's what it's looking like to me. This is of course South Carolina state law, that they want to add in here. Well, and let me toss this up here. Josh has got, what about Delta 8 THC? There, in the particular language of this proposed legislative change, aren't differentiating them. They're not saying Delta 8, Delta 9, anything along those lines. Yeah, I mean, I'm just, now mind you, I don't know what's going to happen with this. Actually, I haven't even been keeping up with the past couple of days. There's been some fentanyl hearings at the State House, and I did see, I think they're moving the legislation forward. I believe it's one of the, and again, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's one of those legislations that if you happen to sell something that contains fentanyl to somebody and they die, you can be charged with murder. I believe that's the legislation that they're moving forward, even if you didn't know. I'm assuming. All right, so anyway, I wanted to drop that right there for just a second. This does not talk about any type of weight on THC. It does not get specific on what THC there is. What, you know, how would you call it? Brand of THC? What placement on the chemicals chart? Anyway, alrighty, I am going to go back here because I can real quick, so I'm just going to sort of go back and click another button. Cannabis trivia answered. I gotta tell you, yeah, I had it right here. Melissa Etheridge was arrested, busted using a vape pen, which she used to treat her pain and suffering due to chemotherapy treatments. Thank you for playing along. I'm going to bury that one way in the back. And we'll try another one another time. All right, let me get that banner off of there. Bunk. All right. So this sort of derailed us pretty well last Wednesday, I've got to say, because my plan was to talk about a portion of what I was going to talk about last Wednesday was going to be, oh look, a civil asset forfeiture legislation sponsored by a Republican, and it wants to, limit civil asset forfeiture, especially for, well, again, I explained, I was mistaken. It wants to add to it. It wants to add edibles without any real clear clarification, real clarification on even what they mean by that. A good example is, Josh just said, there's Delta 8 gummies being sold all across the state in shops left and right. Some of y'all may be able to tell me, but I mean, I'm assuming there is places like some of the supermarkets. I remember Earth Fair at one point, which is a supermarket near us, had CBD items. I believe CVS carries some CBD products. I would assume that those have at least a small percentage of THC in them, unless they're like using isolate. Excuse me. But yeah, where's I don't know. So anyway, I did want to bring this up. That was the only real mention I saw in this bill about marijuana, cannabis, beyond the original phrasing up in the top of here. I think I've probably mentioned action alerts over the past couple of weeks. I have not gotten together. I got to kick myself in the butt on that. I must admit, I was more worried about getting last week's press conference together before getting these out there and the action alert put together. This is one. I mean, I won't be putting an action alert because I mean, if I were putting one together, it would be, please don't do anything with this. And we don't want to bring extra attention to legislation that is going to be put people in greater jeopardy. We really don't want that. Let me just take a quick peek here. Josh has got another comment. Narrow drive with more gummies than you can eat in a few seconds. There you go. Let's change the law so we don't have to worry about it. But yes, interesting that you we talk about this, because one of the things that I've heard people do is, they'll visit out of state, go to a legal state. They will go to the dispensary and they will buy some products, edible products, things like that. Many times these edible products look very similar to other types of similar products. So they might buy some THC gummies, go out to the supermarket and buy some regular gummies, dump them out of the bag, pour the THC ones in, and throw them in their luggage. And I'm told TSC goes, oh, you must have the munchies for the trip. Yeah, you got a lot of good snacks here. I don't know. I've never attempted that. My question too is how's that play with the sniffer dogs? Can they smell gummies? I'd assume they're supposed to be able to. But of course, you know my position on that too. 80% of the time when a dog signals that they think they smelled something, nothing's been found in the vehicle. So how accurate are they to begin with? Anyway, thank you for that, Josh. Never drive with more gummies than you can eat quickly. Yeah, so I don't know exactly where VP was planning, where Vaughn was planning on going with Senate Bill 41 today. Our position, again, is that civil asset forfeiture is a violation of the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. It is depriving someone of their property without charging them with a crime. And my understanding, I believe it was two, maybe even 3 years ago now, I could be mistaken. I was listening to some podcast where they were interviewing, I'm going to say, a union rep for law enforcement. I don't know exactly what union, what law enforcement. It was in South Carolina. And one of the comments on civil asset forfeiture were that 80% of all civil asset forfeiture cases are for $1,000 or less. Well, my understanding, and again, I'm not an expert on civil asset forfeiture law or how they were originally implemented in the U.S. In the drug war, but my understanding was they were originally implemented as a way to go after cartel leaders outside of the country, so not American citizens, but instead cartel leaders that lived outside of the country, but they were able to then maybe seize their assets that they were able to find within the country. And again, it wasn't supposed to be some person on the street, you take their gold chains and their hoopties, or anything like that. That's not what it was for. And even then, I mean, even as such, I would say it's unconstitutional. Somebody might be able to argue, well, a cartel kingpin isn't an American citizen and isn't protected by the rights under the Constitution. I could see that argument. I could, but on the flip side, they are using this against American citizens. It's already been deemed unconstitutional in some courts. I just don't believe it's the Supreme Court, the Circuit Court that covers South Carolina that has found that yet, and that's kind of what it has to be. Somebody needs to take it to court and push it all the way, and of course that takes money. What else Josh have to say? We the people want to keep our stuff. We the people do, absolutely. Oh, we gave that trivia answer. I can get that banner off of there. Blink. There we go. So, kind of just a backtrack to that. Not a lot I have to say on civil asset forfeiture, on the civil asset forfeiture bill S41, except that it is not something that we will promote or that we will, support. And we will hope that it doesn't even get a hearing. But hard to say in our state. Who's got an update on what was going on the fentanyl hearings? Anybody got anything for me? See if I spelled it right. South Carolina House passes bill to criminalize fentanyl trafficking. Let's see if I can catch this real quick. This is on WIS TV 19 minutes ago. 19 minutes. And I'm going to switch screens. Now I'll leave it where it is. Yeah, I just want to real quick take a peek at what's going on with that. If y'all don't mind, just bear with me a second. On Wednesday, the House of Representatives gave legislation, which was a fast-tracking a push to criminalize trafficking fentanyl in South Carolina, where it is currently not a law. Not allowed to traffic fentanyl in South Carolina. Well, I mean, I don't believe criminalizing drugs is the answer, but we did something today that lets those dealers and traffickers know that South Carolina is doing something about fentanyl coming into South Carolina and killing our children, says Rep. Jeff Johnson, Republican of Horry County. It's been coming in for years. what have they been waiting for? Under this legislation, people convicted for the first time of possessing at least 4 grams of drugs containing fentanyl will face at least 7 mandatory years in prison plus a $50,000 fine. First offense. First offense. I don't quite understand this. Possessing at least 4 grams of drugs containing fentanyl. Instead of actually the amount and or weight in grains of fentanyl or something like that. Those caught with larger quantities could be behind bars for up to 40 years and have to pay $200,000. This is top level. This is not kid with a pill. This is 40 pills, 60 pills, 80 pills, according to Tommy Pope, House Speaker Pro Tem. I think we know that name, Tommy Pope. Real quick on that, Republicans unanimously supported the bill's passage, and many of them gathered at the House anti-vote at a press conference, standing behind caucus leadership as they celebrated advancing the legislation. Some Democrats argued this bill will create more problems than it solves, claiming mandatory minimum sentences have not been proven to deter people from dealing and using drugs. I can't argue that. An individual should be allowed to go in front of a judge and say, "Judge, I have no record. I'm not violent. I never hurt anybody. I've never been in trouble my entire life. I thought I had 7 Xanax pills." And now, I mean, this does kind of make some good points, because how many things are being tainted with fentanyl that people don't know? A lot of the deaths, it's my understanding, a lot of the deaths are people that think they're taking something else, but they have been manufactured to contain fentanyl so that people feel they've gotten something for their money, I guess. I don't know. So, you know, I mean, there is one of the main reasons why I say weed should be legalized, because of course we still have law enforcement telling us that marijuana is sometimes tainted with fentanyl. I certainly hope not. I mean, it scares the shit out of me if that's really a thing, but I would certainly hope not. I've heard other stories similar to that where they spray drugs of some sort onto the weed, and there's where legalization becomes necessary, at least to be able to protect the citizenry by making sure that they are getting the quality product that they want, that they were looking for. Where regulation fits in, where testing and regulation, I would love testing and regulation legalized here in South Carolina on all drugs. But now, mind you, you're talking about people that maybe are not getting them through legal channels. They're getting, what's the word I'm looking for, knockoff kind of drugs. I just saw something. I think they actually already are. You could probably contact a local pharmacy. Ina just gave us a comment. They're going to be handing out Narcan soon. It's sort of interesting because I was sort of looking at something the other day, halfway. Never did get a clear answer, but I believe there's a website where you can sort of search and find pharmacies in your neighborhood, or I would suggest even just go to the local pharmacy and say, "Hey, are you involved in this Narcan program? If you feel that you may need this in your area." I don't have a feel of needing it in my household. But I almost thought about, do I get one just so I can kind of like have it on the job when I'm working, or when I'm out and somebody goes down, to be that helpful citizen. I don't know. I don't know if I would really do something like that, but they are becoming available. They're trying to get the Narcan out there so that it is readily available for anybody at any time. And hopefully it saves some lives, but we could save probably more lives with regulation and testing. Um, somebody wants to get some Xanax. I mean, they're already sold legally, um, but people are looking for them without a prescription because they don't want to go to whatever reason. They may not want to go to a doctor. They may be embarrassed. They may feel their doctor won't give them. I couldn't tell you. But, um, so they go to their friends on the street or something, and all it takes is somebody with a pill making machine, and they can apparently make them to look like almost anything else out in the market. Um, So yeah, it's scary. Anyway, I wanted to go on about that just a little bit. Um, Really, I believe if you decriminalize cannabis, you're going to reduce the amount of fentanyl deaths almost right off the bat. If you would, all right, let me get on my soapbox here. Where's my soapbox? If they would decrim simple possession and usage of cannabis, um, and not make it like a reason to stop you by law enforcement because they think they smell cannabis, and it's not going to put your job in risk and all these things because it lasts in your system like forever. You wouldn't be forcing people who wish to still get intoxicated in the same manner to look for an alternative that doesn't stay in their blood system so long, that doesn't smell so much, that doesn't get you caught as easily as cannabis consumption can. I mention this a lot because one of the things that scares me a lot is I never heard about it until I moved to South Carolina. It was the school to prison pipeline. They put these school resource officers in the school. How many kids are busted for simple weed possession? Boom, right on into that pipeline line into prison. Um, and they immediately start their young adult life off as part of the criminal justice system. Absolutely ridiculous, kind of tying those weights onto young people, and it needs to stop. It really does. But where was I kind of going with this? Oh, if it was more readily available, if it wasn't such a negative stigma in our society, if people could legally carry, a small bag of weed with them and do some puffing here and there, they would probably rather opt to do that because now they're not going to, get all the other problems by getting arrested or losing their job, because now it would be decriminalized or legalized. Personally, I think legalized, full legalization, because with full legalization comes that testing and regulation. Excuse me, getting a little dry in the throat. So anyway, that was kind of the in the news thing, kind of off the cuff here, was that fentanyl hearing. Uh, I've got to go find this and share it with you guys. I don't quite know what to say about this, but I've got to go find this. And all right, can I open this up? Okay. Let me go ahead and share my email account here with you real quick. Ba, ba, ba. There we go. Every now and again, y'all might hear me talk about my local Senator Sandy Sen. And I don't know if anybody's going to be able to read this or not. But Senator Sen sends out her weekly legislative update during session. And you can see here, this is for weeks 16-20 and 27-23. So this is kind of 2 weeks covered on this particular one. Each of these portions that she talks about has their, of course, headline: women in South Carolina have been set back 35 years thanks to a nearly all legal male legislature. And then it goes down to the next one, which is the fentanyl poisoning hearing. And this is the one I wanted to bring up because, of course, now it's coming back to me. I know this is where I saw this about Narcan becoming available, is somewhere in here. But she starts talking in here about, in a judiciary subcommittee I listened for 3 hours, to heartbroken parents who told stories that all sounded the same, that each resulted with different young faces attached to the deaths of young adults from fentanyl poisoning. So she goes down and talks about, all the horrors of fentanyl and things like that. But anyway, here's where I want to get us to. Shows a picture of a penny and a quote that says, like a lethal fentanyl dose is equivalent to Abraham Lincoln's eye on the penny. Please, please encourage anyone that you know that may be inclined toward drug use to steer clear of pills and powder because it is where the majority of deaths are occurring. Now, very next line here says, what about marijuana? And then it goes on from there to talk about a county sheriff put on gloves, patting down a man, handling his money. She began feeling ill, fentanyl poisoning apparently, although it's not confirmed. There is a link to it. You can, if anybody is interested, I can share these links. The link on this one goes to a story that said possible fentanyl exposure. And the interesting thing I find many times when I see these stories about law enforcement and possible fentanyl exposure, I've never seen a follow-up confirmation story to say, yes, that's what it was. Because fentanyl just doesn't float into the air and you don't overdose on it. It doesn't work that way. 2 other officers were exposed to drugs and hospitalized while in the line of duty, but were also thankfully saved by Narcan. So she goes on to talk about these law enforcement getting exposed to fentanyl, being saved by Narcan, and then there's another whole paragraph down here. Is it fair to blame police for these deaths? No, blah, 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 blah. It never, anywhere to the end of this article, says anything about marijuana. So I want to come back to this line. But what about marijuana? Come on, Sandy, what about it? You bring it up, you're trying to demonize it by taking the word marijuana and throwing it into a story about fentanyl and law enforcement officers with unintentionally overdosed exposures. You just throw the word marijuana in there to help demonize it. What about it? Anyway, I had to share that with you because this is the way my freaking senator seems to work. A little bit deceitful, if you ask me. A little bit dishonest. What about it? What about the marijuana? Marijuana would actually help the drug epidemic with fentanyl. All right, that's my rant on that. I had to share that because that just sort of aggravated the heck out of me the other day when I saw that. Because yes, I was reading a little bit about this fentanyl legislation moving forward. I forgot where I read it. And somewhere in there, I swore it was in there, but now I'm not seeing it. Oh, okay. There were some links on, see a list of Narcan community distributors and pharmacies. Enter your zip code here to locate test strips to test stuff for Narcan. So that was the other one. Comment if you'd like those links. I can share them with you here in the chat, but not really our main subject to talk about on that stuff. But yeah, it is out there, and again, if you need, I can help. Excuse me, I don't know what's flying in my face. Help you track that stuff down. All right, let me kind of go back here real quick and look at if any other comments. Joey says, should never get anything from anyone you don't know anyway. Too risky. True, but I mean, even if it's people you know sometimes, without a dependable supply chain, I mean, I would hope, the people I get my cannabis from are getting it from somebody that's reliable as well. But yeah, there's a risk even to that. But yeah, you don't just go out and buy something from somebody off the street. It can be risky. But But yeah, we need a safer market. We need safe access. That's actually one of the other organizations that fight for marijuana law reform, um, is the Safe Access Group. All right. And Ina says, Fed's looking at national police reform. Not sure if this will happen to change cannabis laws. I have been seeing some of that, especially with this, I want to say, oh heck, I'm forgetting his name now. Nichols, Trey, I'm forgetting his first name. Anyway, with that incident in Tennessee, and I've probably talked about it on the program before, on the chat before. I am obsessed. I'll say it. I'm obsessed with watching First Amendment audit videos on YouTube. I watch them almost every morning with my coffee. I'm drinking coffee and watching First Amendment audit videos. And matter of fact, I've been watching Long Island audits court case in Connecticut for the most part past 2 days. I can't believe they're dragging that one out the way they are. And it's a really interesting insight into how, law enforcement and not just law enforcement but other government officials treat the public. And anyway, I won't go too much into those. Like I said, I'm a little obsessed with watching them. I know there's different auditors that they behave differently. I mentioned Long Island audit. Personally, I think he's very, what's the word I'm looking for, cordial to people. But he's also asserts his rights. Some of them are a little more obnoxious. I have to admit, some of them are definitely try to roust some attention or whatever. But they're still not doing anything illegal in most of these cases. And so to watch this Long Island audit one play out in Connecticut, I think Danbury, it's kind of interesting to see how government is just throwing so many resources and wasting so many resources into trying to create twists and turns to criminalize him and not to own up to their tyranny. All right, I am going to kind of cut it a little short tonight, I'm thinking. We're about not quite 6:45. I miss VP. I miss her. She really helps make me helps the show become a little bit more interesting for sure because of back and forth. I don't know. What do you think? One more trivia question before we go? Should we try another trivia question? I say yes. So, let me see if I can get one more out of the box here. I'm going to start the front and move to the back as we go. This one I think, I don't know, it's a high point value on the card. What country produces the most hemp in the world? Now, mind you, this set's from 2018. I don't know if those numbers have changed. What country produces the most hemp in the world? The answers may be China, USA, Mexico, Sweden. Put your answer in the comment if you believe it is, whether it be China, USA, Mexico, or Sweden. What country produces the most hemp in the world? But otherwise, we'll bring the answer to you on that in just a couple of moments. In the meantime, I do want to remind you all, I think everybody here is pretty much already signed up for the 2023, but we are in our final 2 weeks of our membership drive. We are still hoping to find a couple more sponsors to maybe add to our basket, but if nothing else, there is the Dope Man board game. I have donated a sploof, and we have, let me get their name right so I can promote them properly, a gift certificate from Healing Leaf Health and Wellness here in South Carolina. Website healingleafsc.com. So we got a couple of goodies in the final drawing that we will be holding probably around the 15th, 16th. I don't know. Should check my calendar. Might be able to do it live on the show. 15th, we could probably do it live on the show. Cannabis Conversation on the 15th. Yeah, look at that. We will probably do our drawing then. In the meantime, during the last 2 weeks, as we have had since we started our membership drive in, I want to say November, is that you will get a couple of extra freebie premium items with your membership. You will get I got one right here, Emerging Clinical Applications book. You will get a pocket constitution, not like this one, but similar. You will get a button, you will get a leaf pin, and you will get 5 of our South Carolina NORML stickers to stick on stuff wherever. So please join us. Your memberships help support our efforts. I gotta tell you, I think Ina must be an encyclopedia here. She got it right. China is the largest hemp producer, at least in 2018. They probably still are. So I don't know. 2 answers right, and I have no prize for you. It just doesn't seem right. Ida, thank you for playing along. I appreciate it. Appreciate you all. We do not have any other events up yet scheduled. We're starting to try and work on some stuff, especially for April, because April. But in the meantime, I do want to remind you a couple of things here tonight, and one is go ahead and visit our YouTube channel. We have 2 versions of our press conference up there. We had 2 different cameras set up, one that we used as the live stream, one that we used as a static camera, just kind of as backup. But those are both up there. We ask that you go ahead and share our press conference information. Also, don't forget to visit our social media and share those with family, friends that might help support. Ask them to like our page. And last but not least, don't forget to come on back here next Wednesday at 7 p.m. and join me for the South Carolina Cannabis Conversation. Next Wednesday will be our monthly meeting. We'll be talking about the new legislation that has been sponsored, or has been, what I'm looking for, filed at federal level. I believe there's 2 so far. I haven't seen any others. But we'll see what happens by next week. We should be seeing those come in pretty quickly. We'll be talking a little bit about state level, and those, again, we've kind of highlighted over the past week some of the new state level legislation that we've seen come in. By next Wednesday, I will have action alerts prepared for some of the stuff for you. If not, you can spank me? No, that sounds weird. You could scold me anyway. You could scold me. But yeah, I plan on having at least something for the DCRIM H3561. I'd love to see action alert for South Carolina Senate Bill 211. That is the descheduled bill by Mia McLeod. 212, which is Mia McLeod's advisory referendum for recreational. I'd like to see that on the ballot as an advisory question. I will also have action alerts for Todd Rutherford's DCRIM for vets, and one that I'm thinking of developing as a support for medical, but supporting both House Bill 3226, which is the Put Patients First Act, or in the action alert, I'll be mentioning both the Put Patients First Act and the Compassionate Care Act. Personally, we feel that the Put Patient First Act meets more of the core criteria for a patient-centric cannabis medical program than the Compassionate Care Act does. But we're also realists. We know that it is a democratically sponsored bill, and we'll probably never see even a hearing in committee. With that said, we do want to support medical as we can. So keep an eye out for that. Another thing I like to mention is when we do these action alerts and these letters and these action alerts that you send off to your legislators, you do have the ability to edit them, to change them, to put in some of your own words. And so we encourage you to do that. Also, last but not least, now that I am thinking about it, if you or anybody that watching this later or on with us right now that participated with us at the press conference lobby day last week, we just recently sent out a follow-up email, a thank you for participating email, and in there was a little questionnaire survey asking a little bit about how we did, things you might like to see change for next year. So your input makes a big difference for us here. It really is helpful. Again, if you participated and got that questionnaire, please fill it out, and that will definitely help us from planning for next year. Alrighty, that is what I got for you tonight, folks. It's about 10 minutes before 8, but I'm going to call it a good night, and we will see you here again next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Thank you for joining me. Always love to have you here. Bye-bye now.